We call it people technology.
Well, with everyone having played 11 games in the league phase, if you're serious about your prospects for the playoffs, there can be no more slip ups. Certainly, if you're the Kolkata Knight Riders and the Punjab Kings, whose best chance of making a playoff spot in a week's time when the league phase culminates is if they keep matters in their own hands. They've got to win everything in their last three games. And this is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout as we look ahead to match number 45 with Dale Steyn and Sanjay Manjrekar, two teams that have made serious talking points on this show with tactics, with team changes, and that will not stop today. So, Punjab Kings have won the toss. They're
Hmm.
going to bowl first because KL Rahul says we're not quite sure what the right total is batting first. Sanjay, sometimes KL Rahul also isn't quite sure how to batting first. So, I guess this is a good toss for him personally.
As a principle, I think in T20 cricket, unless the pitch is really,
Hmm.
outrageous or whatever, where you think, there's a lot of sense in batting first. Otherwise, there's always an advantage letting the others do the setting of the target and then you chase it down.
Hmm. Kolkata have won three out of four, Dale. The only loss being that narrow game to CSK. They look like a team whose curve is upward. Punjab Kings, on the other hand, while the points table will still reflect that they're in it, if they win all their games, tough games as they may be, as KL Rahul's side get ready to play KKR today, and then RCB and CSK, two teams that are looking good for playoff spots in their last two. They've had their share of problems. Fair to say KKR are favourites for this one?
I would say so. They just look like the second leg of the IPL. They look like they've got things in order. With the absence of Russell, though, I don't know if they can maintain that kind of momentum for the rest of the tournament. He was just doing so well for them in this leg. When he got AB de Villiers out, especially, it just I kind of sat in my chair and I was like, wow, okay, this is a different Russell. This is a different KKR. Although Punjab have always looked like they they threaten to do extremely well and they look like they're going to do well, and then somehow they just let things slip. So I'm always interested to see what kind of performance they'll bring out tonight, because they've got all the players to do it. I mean, they've got KL and they've got these magical players, Puran. And we just haven't seen it happen for them consistently enough.
Now, there are changes galore to both teams, shall we? Now, a lot has happened in the last 24 hours in the IPL. Chris Gale has left the bubble, so they're left with some choices to make. Punjab Kings, KKR, though, they have some changes of their own, and a big one is the miss of Lockie Ferguson. We did see him pick up some sort of niggle in the last game, and he's not fit in time. We thought they would stick to an overseas bowler. They don't quite have those options anymore. So no Russell and no Lockie Ferguson. Tim Seifert will make his first appearance for KKR this season. Hard hitting top order bat. And Owen Morgan says one tactical change. Shivam Mavi comes in for Sandeep Warrior. So a bit of musical chairs going on with that Indian pacer. Prasidh Krishna left out. After that, over against Jadeja and CSK. Then came Sandeep Warrior for one game. He's out. Now Shivam Mavi replaces him. So let's try and make sense of it all. Lockie Ferguson missing, Dale. That's a big one, though, isn't it?
No, it's a big one. You need pace. We've seen what pace can do. Lockie has been, wow, he's been quick. And so is the likes of Rabada and Norkia. And when you've got that extra added pace, it tends to feel like anything can happen. They're big wicket takers, but also the teams feel like they have to go at somebody else, and that's when like your Narayans and your Chakravartis really come into the fold. They don't have to bowl half as well. They just got to get the ball in the right area, kind of confuse the batters a little bit, and they can get more wickets. Just that's what pace does. It makes players do silly things. So it's a big loss for them not having Lockie Ferguson in their team. Any team that loses a good quick bowler is on the back foot.
Well, the only remaining overseas alternative would have been Ben Cutting, Sanjay. As we look at the Kolkata team, clearly there's a lot of faith now in Venkatesh Iyer, the bowler, after just a game or so, because that's who they'll have to count on along with Nitish Rana to bowl some overs. You've got Narayan, Saudi, Mavi, and Varun Chakravarti, all of whom need to bowl their full quota, you think. What do you make of this change from Kolkata, bringing in Tim Seifert for Lockie and then swapping Mavi and Sandeep Warrior?
I like that Tim Seifert is in that playing 11 because that shows that KKR is not getting carried away with, how their batting is going, because it is really riding on the back of Venkatesh Iyer's, tremendous form at the top, and Rahul Tripathi as well. Morgan has been almost runless. So it's good to see that they have looked at that aspect despite having a winning formula together. Prasidh Krishna, whether it's injury or they've left him out because he has that tendency of going for runs. Warrior a bit unfair. I thought bowled a couple of overs and weren't so bad. They didn't go back to him. So they've gone for Mavi, who might be a bit of a gamble, but Lockie Ferguson is a massive setback. 147 kilometers per hour, keeps it straight, very hard to get away. And today it seems like from the pitch report that I watched, it's a batting pitch, so all the more, need for somebody like a Lockie Ferguson.
7 wickets in 4 games for Lockie Ferguson. He's been outstanding for them. And the fact that they'll now have to defend a total, something that they did struggle to do against an informed CSK, albeit Dale. Venkatesh Iyer, we've only seen him bowl his full quota last game, but this clearly says the management's trusting him to bowl 4 in this one.
Yeah, he's something, isn't he? He's come out and he's batted beautifully. He's taken some wickets. He must be absolutely loving his life right now, and his decision not to be. I think he wants to go into the financial world or something like that. He's quite an academic.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's loving his cricket, and when guys are loving their cricket and they're confident, they do a lot better. Even if you think they're part-time bowlers, they tend to do a lot better than we give them credit for. If he does bowl tonight, he might have a golden arm once again.
Do make though is Tim Seifert. So I'm curious to see. We'll get the answer in just under 20 minutes, Sanjay, as to how that affects the Kolkata batting lineup. Seifert likes to open the batting for New Zealand. Had a good series against India back in 2019. Shubman Gill and Venkatesh Iyer have had a good time of it at the top of the order. So how does he fit into this lineup?
I think down the order, but I don't think they'll change the top three. I think Tripathi is batting brilliantly as well. Every time he comes in, he looks like a guy who's in touch, very hard batter to pin down. So I see him coming down the order. So Morgan, the captain, needs a little bit of support with the batting, and that's I think the reason why he's back in. So down the order.
All right. Well, we'll find out who walks out in about 20 minutes' time or so. Let's talk about Punjab Kings changes. They're still very much in this. They've got 3 tough games. If they are to win it, they leave fate at least somewhat in their own hands. They hope for results to still go their way. Chris Gayle has left the bubble. He's had enough of it, he says. He wants to prepare for the T20 World Cup. That whether that's bubble fatigue and you can understand it, or he just thinks, nah, forget it, this team's not going to make it, let me just enjoy my time and be ready for the West Indies. Aiden Markram, you think, will bat 3. Fabian Allen returns after featuring in the first game of the restart, and there's also one tactical change. They brought back Shah Rukh Khan and left out Harpreet Brar. So those are the 3 changes they make. Sanjay Manjrekar, let's go to you first up. I wonder the absence of Gale, and of course let's talk about Mayank Agarwal. He's back for Mandeep Singh. That's an important return too for them. But let's talk about that. Does that batting lineup look a bit better, funny enough, with Gale out of it?
Yeah, I mean, less complications.
Yes.
Mayank Agarwal was expected to come back stiff neck, so he was going to come back. But the issue is Punjab Kings winning, and there seems to be enough batting ability there. Puran gets another game, but he's looking temperamentally, out of sorts when he plays in the IPL. I think finally we have to reach that conclusion because every time he's playing elsewhere, he's phenomenal. The way he reacted in the last game, the ball hit the pads, he looked like he was completely lost mentally. So that is a bit of a worry. But I'm just hoping that the impossible things can happen in the camp of Punjab Kings. Just shuffle that batting order. Markram batted number 4, but thankfully played well in the last game. Uh, Punjab Kings, consistently haven't quite made it. They've made a lot of changes, but few things don't change for them, which is, people at the top. If there is a problem down there at number 4 and 5, a champion cricketer should go down there and sort that issue out if you have that ability. And I've always believed KL Rahul does have that class and the ability to go down at number 4 and 5 and sort out issues there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of suggestion which makes such sense, and yet it's just not going to happen. That's just how IPL teams set up at times. Dale, yeah, I mean, Sanjay makes a good point there that any lineup with Gale in it would be strong and not stronger with him out of it. But this lineup in particular is less complicated with Markram batting, at 3, where you think is the lowest that he should be batting. And they've also tried, I guess, to fix their middle order woes by bringing in both Shah Rukh Khan and Fabian Allen.
Yep, I mean that team looks fantastic on paper. It's just it boils down to consistency for Punjab. They consistently find ways to win and consistently find ways to lose. And that's the thing for them right now. They just winning is a habit and losing is also a habit. And I just kind of go back to that one game where they should have gotten over the line and they should have won. Maybe in the 19th or even 18th over, and they lost that game. That can have a major mental effect on the way that you go about playing your cricket. So they can put out the best team on paper, but if you don't know how to get over the line, you're going to still lose cricket games. But that team on paper looks fantastic. If this was the start of the IPL and I looked at that team, I'd say this is a very good cricket team. This is a strong team. Today's going to be a fantastic match. Mentally and where they are on the log and what they need to do and everything like that, those kind of pressures come into it. Then you start to ask a little bit of questions, So let's see what Punjab have on them for tonight.
Yeah, we were actually wondering, Sanjay, where some of these domestic players that we thought made an impact in the first leg went in the second. Shah Rukh Khan was one of those players. We didn't know if it was injury that kept him out. Franchises are quiet about all that. But in spite of picking him up for good money at the last auction, didn't start with him in the restart. He's back now, and he has the runs in domestic cricket behind him. Does he pull his weight? Is that a fair selection call, though, for this Punjab team?
Yes, and the limited opportunity that he's got in the IPL, he's been quite impressive. So, that makes a lot of, sense. But the problem with Punjab is that a platform gets set at the top, and then there is pressure in the middle. And you've got guys who are panicking a little at the moment. Huda is one of those, and Puran is the other. So the problem is right there. I just wish that guys who are in form, guys who are established players, can go down and make lives easier for these guys who are really struggling. And it's something that seems very obvious to me, but it's not happening. And, it's not right for the franchise then to think, the guys at the top are getting runs. The problem is down there. If you remember way back in '92 when Pakistan won the World Cup, Inzamam ul Haq was struggling for runs, batting at number 3. And the captain said, you know what, I'm going to keep my trust in this guy and make his life easy and bat him down the order. And he batted in number 3, Imran himself. And Inzamam played a couple of great innings to win Pakistan the World Cup. So that is my expectation from, champion cricketers who have the skills. I'm not going to ask somebody who doesn't somebody who can only make an impact at the top. But we know Rahul can bat down the order. With Tendulkar as well, through his long career, so many things happened around him, but Tendulkar never batted at any other position that number 4. So it's part of this Indian whole culture of all these iconic players who stay where they are, and and we seem to look at problems elsewhere that need to be sorted. Why doesn't the champion go down there and roll up his sleeves and go down in that engine room and sort out the issue there?
Very interesting point Sanjay makes, and he relies on almost cricketing wisdom of decades, and so much so, Dale, as he points out. But T20 sides, would you somewhere look to challenge Sanjay's point by saying no, there are specialist sort of roles that T20 sides have? So if these two guys aren't doing it in the middle, either we keep faith in them because Nicholas Puran, you have to finish the job for us. Shah Rukh Khan, you get a chance as well to do that. It's not about the top order batter coming and doing it. Or do you subscribe to that view that in this team there is a case for somebody like KL Rahul to say we need to win this? These guys aren't doing it, so let me come down and do it.
Absolutely, no, 100% agree. And it depends on the type of player that you got. If you're looking like at a Hashim Amla, for example, I wouldn't necessarily say to Hashim Amla, "Look, we're struggling in the middle order. You're not going to open the batting. You're going to bat 6." He's opened the batting his entire life. I don't think he's ever batted at 6. But if you look at KL Rahul, he's batted anywhere from 1 to 5 to 6, in his career, and he's actually done extremely well in all of those positions. So yeah, why not slip out of that position and go and help the middle order a little bit? The thing that might be fighting on it is that there's always this kind of target in mind that maybe the orange cap might be more accessible and available to me if I open the batting as opposed to batting at 5 or 6, where I'm not going to get as many opportunities to score as much runs. That might be a little bit of a thing. I'm not saying it is, but you got to play with the ego in that kind of sense. But in this particular case, KL can certainly drift down the order to 4 or 5 and certainly help out that middle order, which has been struggling pretty much this entire IPL, really.
Ronak, just bear with me.
Treatment,
I've made the
please.
effort of being again on Cricket 4, and I'm looking at KL Rahul in T20 internationals. Batting at number 4, he's got 110 not out. His first T20 international 100. He's got a 24 of 14. There's 14 of 20. So there have been 3 or 4 occasions that he's batted at number 4. He's batted at number 3 as well. And he's got 100 at the T20 international level, batting at number 4. So,
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I'm thinking of one more thing here. What would you do as an opposition if you suddenly plan for Rahul and Agarwal, which you think is a safe bet, and suddenly you say Makram and Agarwal walk out, and at number three you see somebody else, maybe Deepak Hooda gets a promotion, Nicholas Puran could come out,
Puran,
Shahid
yeah.
Khan could get a free hand, and suddenly then you think,
Absolutely.
oh, KL Rahul's going to walk in at five. Suddenly does that mess up your bowling plans as well, Dale?
Definitely. I mean, teams will be looking at who they're playing against. They kind of have an idea. So they go match for match. They go player for player. They're going, okay, Rabada versus Kale, for example, he's going to open the bowling this game. And Kale doesn't walk out to bat. Captains now have to change their thinking. They've also got an idea in their mind as who they're going to bowl at the death. Now they have to bring that back. It messes with the entire game plan, really. It does. But you can only do this if you have players that are capable of doing what Kale can do.
Yeah.
He can bat anywhere in the top 4. And like I said, you can't exactly. It would be a surprise if you saw Hashim Amla not opening the batting. But you'd be almost happier in that sense. In this sense, you'd have a little bit of a concern. You'd be going, oh my goodness, there's a game on today. These guys have come slightly more prepared and have a different way of attacking us. It's definitely an option for them.
And easier, Ronak, to do all this
Yeah.
when nothing is working, right? There's nothing to lose. If
Yep.
Punjab, I mean, we've talked on the show, Dale has made that point as well. If you're winning with a particular formula, then you don't change it. Even if you think, Suresh Raina not looking good at 4 or 5, his form is not that good, but he keeps getting picked because the formula is working. Makes sense.
Would you also think that could just free up everybody else? If Puran and Huda play before Rahul, they know there's Rahul still to come. Whereas when they come in now, they feel like the next batter is Harpreet Brar or Mohammad Shami or the tail begins next up. Would perhaps even help this out of the box suggestion, Sanjay, get the best out of these guys who are struggling?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I lost a bit of what you said. What is the out of box suggestion, Ronak?
No, I said, would it also help these guys who are struggling for form if they come in ahead and know that KL Rahul is to follow, rather than come in at 5, 6 and know the next batters are Harpreet Brar or Mohammad Shami or Ashdeep Singh? That sort of pressure, would it somewhere free up a Deepak Hooda or Nicholas Puran if they have to bat ahead of Rahul?
See, Puran, I'm not going to comfort him by saying, that might help Puran or, it's just that this particular batting order is not working. When I looked at Puran's CPL numbers, he's batted down the order as well at number 6 and got runs. So clearly with him, he's got opportunities as well. It's not that every time he's come out this half of the IPL, it's only 8 or 10 balls left. That has happened quite a lot in the early career of Puran with Punjab Kings. But now, he's come in when there is plenty of time, but there's some temperamental issue there. But you're just changing something that's not working. And this is where, I feel all these people, coaches with a lot of experience, people with stature in the support staff, they are the ones who've got to be making these things happen. And this is so much part of the Indian culture. And sorry, again, going back in the past, 2011, when India was in England, they lost 4-0. Nothing was working. The batting was in shambles. But Tendulkar batted at number 4 no matter what. Rahul Dravid opened in test matches. He got a few runs in that, I think 300 maybe in that particular series.
Yeah.
But he opened the innings because India needed somebody at the top. VVS Lakshman was woefully out of form, but he volunteered for number 5 to bat at number 3. But Tendulkar stayed at number 4. He has that ability to bat at number 3 or whatever. But with certain players, it's just amazing how, they stay where they are while everything around seems to be going to ruins, to exaggerate the situation a little bit. Not ruins, but
It's happened, and it happens in the IPL too. It's not only a format specific or a generation specific argument. Rohit Sharma, for a long time, it made sense for him to at times bat 4, but you just did not get the returns. So you felt, let's put him up because that's the best. If we get the best out of Rohit Sharma, it'll be great for the Mumbai Indians. So, Virat Kohli's had a similar sort of example. It may have made sense for him to bat 3 at times, but you're just not getting the returns. He opens, he's a different player. Now, Dale, when you look at IPL sides, there are a lot of alphas in these IPL sides. Would you be saying best way to manage the team is they've got to, we've got to get the best out of them. So if you put Rahul at the top, that's where he's happiest. That's where he's likeliest to succeed. If you put him at 4-5, he's out of his comfort zone. It may upset him, and therefore it may upset the team.
Well, if you look at Punjab, I mean, you've got Markram who can open the batting, but he's just happy to be batting in the team regardless. He's just happy to get an IPL gig right now. It's the first time he's there, so he's like, I'll bat at 7, whatever, I'm playing, no problem. But, you got Chris Gale. Chris Gale opens the batting. He's opened the batting for many years. Now, if you asked him, where do you want to bat? He'll say, please, I want to open the batting. Batting at 3, close enough. It's not too bad. It's difficult to keep every single person happy and give every single person what they want. The game sometimes suggests that something needs to change, and then that's when players need to understand that, and they need to adapt. Up until that point, coaches, management, cricket staff, they'll do their best to give the players what they want and allow them to be in the space that they want to be. Open the batting, KL Rahul, whatever. In this case, this is just a suggestion between us three, but yes, it would be a possible opportunity for KL to drift down the order.
I mean, today Tim Seifert might have to bat at 4 or 5, having opened all his life. You can pick a number of batters that fall into that category. So I guess everyone has to be flexible, but not some of our major Indian batters if it's left up to them. We've actually spent 20 minutes with a fascinating out of the box suggestion, which I believe is completely unlikely to happen. And I think Sanjay and Dale agree. It's not going to happen.
It seems to be out of the box suggestion. I mean, but if I'm using cricketing logic again, that term that I want to avoid, it just makes sense. Just makes sense.
100%. I'm with you in that, Sanjay. And if you see the middle order for Punjab, you see they've had their troubles. Numbers suggest that too. So there's a reason we're saying it. Their season is still alive. And if something is to change, it could change here. But that's where you have it. Rahul and Mayank, in spite of them getting so many runs, they're falling short. They're not picking up the points they should. And there is some trouble if you look at their batting in the middle overs. So who better than KL Rahul to try and arrest that? But it's unlikely to happen. Maybe a chase will help. Simple as that. Today, though, they have to also contend with the fact that they're up against the best spin bowlers in this tournament, certainly in the UAE leg, because Varun Chakravarti and Sunil Narayan between them have been picking up wickets. They've been hard to get away, and they're now even bowling in the death. So this could make a chase even trickier. There was a similar game, this exact fixture in the UAE last year. Punjab completely messed up a chase which they should have won. It was a game where Sunil Narayan turned things around with ball, and that's how good they've been, both going economy rates of 5 and 6. Sharjah was different, Dale, but we expect that to continue. Narayan Varun Chakravarti, even in Dubai, in a chase, this could be a tricky game for Punjab.
Absolutely. In a chase, wow, those two guys and those economy rates are ridiculous. 5 runs and over for Chakravarti. That is, especially where he's bowling. He's bowling outside of the power play, so the field is spread. You'd imagine that guys should be able to get 6 and over easily, just like knocking the ball around. I can imagine how many dot balls that he's bowled. And that means pressure. That just means so much pressure. Everybody else around him is then able to pick up wickets, whoever the seamers are or the other spinner, like Narayan from the other side. But those two economy rates and bowling at the death too, oh wow, it's going to be tough with that kind of form. It's going to be tough chasing. If the wicket wears down a little bit, it's only 20 overs. It shouldn't be too much, but it should be enough for these two spinners to come into the party.
What's the best way to take on and score of Narayan and Chakravarti when they're bowling at their best? Sanjay saw something wonderful yesterday. Ruturaj Gaikwad taking on Rashid Khan. Can you do something like that to Narayan and Varun Chakravarti?
Yes, but the thing is they're so straight and they're hitting the stumps all the time. So, the moment you miss it, you're going to be either leg before a bowl. So the best way to tackle these guys is to hit them straight. And that needs a lot of skill. Slog towards the mid-wicket, power game, bottom hand coming in, you can get that power and the elevation and everything. To hit straight sixes, a little more difficult. And, these are tough guys to get away. And Owen Morgan has been using them superbly. You'll find if Mavi is not having a great night, you'll see him not bowling so much in the death, and you'll have one Sunil Narayan over if it comes to that. So That is where you love to see a team, and Morgan, despite runs not there on the board, the way he's used his spinners. I mean, Sunil Narayan's batting in the last game, the way he was entrusted with that particular job. So lots to like about KKR, and Varun Chakraborty and Sunil Narayan have been phenomenal. Sunil Narayan, especially because you're looking at this guy. Uh, you completely change bowling action. It's almost like a batter being told that, okay, now you can't play these 3, 4 shots. I still want you to average 15 test matches. Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell you what, there's quite a conversation that we're waiting to have about how Morgan uses spinners, but we'll save that perhaps for half time. Looking at what KKR get, the absence of Lockie Ferguson may also just dictate what role Varun and Narayan have to play in the second innings. So we'll come to that then. But before we leave you, Tim Seifert's making his first appearance this season for KKR. So let's get a hold of Seifert's T20 numbers, and who better to ask than Cricket for? I mean, you can ask Sanjay Manjrekar. He knows most numbers at the top of his head. Dale Steyn's very good. Well, you see, I don't know if he's like Glenn McGrath. He remembers every one of those wickets,
Glenn
many,
is
many wickets.
unbelievable.
Absolutely. But let's ask Cricket. Ask Glenn would also be something that would sell well. My God, I'm blending well with the yellow backdrop we've
That
got
would be
going
very
on. And
clever.
CSK mode. Yeah. Tim Seifert, that's his record. That highest score actually, that 84 not out. I think it came against India. You were counting T20 eyes in T20s often. Strike rate of over 127, and he's a big hitter. 81 sixes in 82 innings gives you an impression of that. So that's what we've got for Seifert, and let's see where he comes out to bat today. Sanjay Manjrekar, Dale Steyn, fascinating conversation on KL Rahul, one of the favorites, one of the best that I've had this season. If only these franchises watched our content more, they'd find themselves in the playoff spots. Until then, let's keep the chat going on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout. Massive game for Punjab Kings. And don't forget, KKR also don't want to slip up after they picked up key points against Delhi Capitals. Let's see how they bat first, and we'll pick up the chat at the end of the innings.
We call it people technology.